Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another Tech Friday right here on twitch.tv/DC Lasair, where there is nothing untowards going on whatsoever.
No, everything's
No,
fine. Everything's
everything's,
good.
we're good.
Yep.
All right. I'll be your host. Amazing that DC, exclamation mark DC in my chat. To get my links, go to dclasair.bio.link to find all the things about me. And today I have a guest. Who could it be?
Who could it
Why?
be?
Who could it be? Why, it's an author, artist, maker, performer, and TTRPG content creator, Zero Reynolds. Say hello to the peoples.
Hi to the peoples.
Yeah.
There is far too much blood in my caffeine stream. Y'all are going to have to forgive me.
So, anything you want to plug at the opening here?
Currently, the only thing I've got to plug is my show, Artificer Industries, over on YouTube. I would love for y'all to go check that out. The entire premise of it is I make cool, geeky stuff, and I teach you how to make cool, geeky stuff because I genuinely believe that the world needs more cool shit. And that's it.
Excellent. All right. So, today we're talking a topic I know very little about, but you know very much about.
Too much. Too
Too
much.
much.
It's dark arcana. I can't unlearn it.
3D printing.
Yes.
So let's start with the 3D printer itself. What am I
Yes.
looking for? What are the types? Because I know there's different types of material you can put in it to
hmm
make things.
So realistically, there are only two types of 3D printers out there. You have FDM, which is fused deposition modeling, and that's what you see with the big spools of plastic wire that melts the wire and it builds something up. And then you have SLA printers, which is stereolithography. Stereolithography. I can't even talk today. And that basically prints from a pool of resin, slowly but surely building up. The main difference between those two is simply in how they operate with their materials. For instance, FDM, the most common material you're going to be working with is PLA, which is just straight up thermoplastic. And it feeds into a hot end, which melts the plastic. And then the printer head moves around, depositing that bead or line of melted plastic onto the model to slowly build it up. An SLA printer, on the other hand, uses photosensitive resin. And how that works is your bed is over basically a clear screen, usually an LCD screen, that will flash images of the slices, the layers of an object that will instantly or mostly cure the resin of that layer and slowly build it up. Um, I can tell you that FDM printers are great when you're talking about building larger props. If you're making a little bit more simplified shapes, now FDM printers today can get away with amazing detail, but you're always going to have layer lines left over. So if you're printing with an FDM printer, you're going to do a lot of sanding. There's just no getting around it. If you are printing in resin, say for minis for tabletop, things of that nature, you're going to get much higher detail. And aside from where you'll have to sand off from supports, way less sanding and work after the fact. So the only downside to SLA printing, depending on what resin you're using, is that it is not as structurally sound as what you're going to get out of an FDM printer. So if you're printing small things with high detail in resin, you're fine. If you're printing big pieces that are a little bit more finicky and stuff, you're better off printing an FDM because it's not going to snap quite as easily.
All right. Thank you. And
Mm-hmm.
most 3D printers, at least all the ones I've seen, are like these cubes, right? With
Yeah.
clear plastic around them or some material that you can see
Yeah, so
inside.
you have especially with the SLA, the resin printers, they'll usually come with their own enclosure. And the reason for that, of course, is you're dealing with photosensitive resin. You're trying to keep out all ambient light that you can so the resin doesn't cure out of turn. A lot of the larger build volume FDM machines will also have an enclosure. That's just mostly for dust, particulates, things like that. It's not something you really have to worry about with FDMs. But then you have these really cute that 3D printing has come a long way, folks. you have these really cute, like it's a robot arm with a printer on it, and it's super, super tiny for printing tiny things. And it doesn't have any moving bed or any weirdness like that. It's really, it has a plate and the head moves around with a tiny arm and prints tiny, adorable things. All the way up to the really wild 3D printers where it has a conveyor belt because it is printing on a completely different axis. So you can print out an entire full-size sword on this FDM printer in one go. And it's wild, absolutely
Wow.
wild. Creality, who's a big name in 3D printers, thank you, particularly for FDM machines. That's one of the ones they produce. But they also produce a pretty bog standard entry level printer called the Ender 3. So the Ender 3, which is the printer that I recently had that unfortunately broke, mine was a complete freak accident. This is not a commentary on the quality of Creality printers, but very entry level. You can usually score one for about $200 for a fully fledged 3D printer. It's amazing. You put it together yourself, you keep the bed level, and you are off to the races. The biggest hurdle, I think, for people coming into 3D printing is simply that they've already told themselves it's more complicated than it actually is. And I'm not even, talking about the absolute embarrassment of riches we have online concerning information you can look up on this stuff. When it comes right down to it, it's a three-part process. Getting your model, and there's places like Thingiverse where you can find thousands upon thousands of free models. Putting it into a slicer, which we'll talk about a slicer here shortly, taking the code the slicer puts out and sticking it into your 3D printer and letting it run. And that's it. Everything else is just either maintenance or refilling whatever material you're working with. And that's pretty much it.
All right. So yeah, going down into the software from hardware to software, you have your 3D printer, you have your material going into it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you need the software to interpret it's usually STL files, right?
STL, OBJ, there are a few slicers out there that will work with more exotic files from certain 3D rendering programs and things like that. But by and large, what you're going to find online when you're just getting started is going to be STL files. And it's just a very basic, rudimentary 3D imaging file of whatever object you're trying to print. And what a slicer does is it takes that shape, right? And depending on how you tweak it, we can talk more a little bit about that in a second. Um, is all it's doing is it's spitting out code to tell your printer head or your printer what it needs to do. Where for FDM printers, it's literally just telling the print head or the bed where it needs to be at any given moment in three axes, X, Z, and Y. And if you ever look at a piece, it's called G code, what gets spit out. And if you ever look at a piece of G code, it's literally nothing but three-dimensional coordinates within the three dimensions, the three-dimensional empty space of your 3D printer. With SLA for resin printers, all it's telling the code then is what an individual slice is going to look like. What is that shape that it's trying to print? And then we'll just step it up from there. And there are so many different slicers out there, but by and large, if you're particularly if you're buying a brand printer, if they have a specific slicer that they have created, you're probably going to want to go with that. But most FDM printers in particular, you can get away with a slicer program called Cura, which is something that I use. It's absolutely free. It's very easy to use. It has hundreds of different things you can change and play with, but you never necessarily have to go that deep into it unless you are really seriously getting into this sort of manufacturing stuff and designing your own stuff to meet your needs. For SLA resin printers, oh wow, I'm actually there's a completely separate software suite for that one, which is also free. But then you have certain printer companies will come out with their own slicers, and most of the time they will include them on whatever USB stick they include with the printer itself. So you just plug that into your computer, install the program, and they'll usually already have a test print. It's another thing people need to get under their belt is the test print. And whenever you get a 3D printer of any size, of any type, it will come with a test file for you to print to make sure that your calibrations, if you don't have a self-leveling bed, or if you're setting up the actual resin plate for the first time, to just make sure that everything is working properly. And from that test print, it will tell you if something is off and what needs to be tweaked. That's the biggest thing. Print the test print a couple of times, learn how to read a test print, and then any adjustments you make will not only be the right ones, but you will know what to do next time this happens.
Right. And speaking of printing and things like that, uh, my friend had one, and it would get hot inside that enclosure space.
Mhm.
And so, how do you keep track of temperature? Do some have a monitor or like a thermometer that you can
Yeah,
read,
some do.
or
Yeah,
or
some
the
definitely
software
do.
reports a temperature, or you can.
Oh, for sure. Especially on the newer 3D printers you can find. Again, I tend to hew towards FDM because that's what I had. Um, Companies like Anker, which have recently really jumped with boots leading the way into the 3D printing market. They will build a lot of peace of mind features directly into their printers. They everything from a camera that will allow you to monitor and record the progress of your prints, um, to basically a laser guided print quality check as the print goes. So you don't get failed prints, you don't get a slight offset with the print head, you don't get what's called spaghettiing when the filament just kind of spools out everywhere, and also let you know when there's a break in the filament, if the filament's about to run out, all this great stuff. With FDM printers, you temperature is not a huge issue because all the temperature happens at the hot end of the actual print head, and then the fans that are built into the print head will immediately cool the plastic once it's deposited. Right. With resin printers, on the other hand, temperature is a huge issue. This is one of the unfortunate parts of you get better quality, but you're dealing with more problems. Um, you can have resin prints affected by the temperature, by the latent moisture in the air, by your elevation. All these things have to be taken into account. Now, thankfully, the big resin printer companies have long since been aware of this, and they've put in certain things to help things along. But as always, there's going to be trial and error. That's the other thing. If you're going to get into 3D printing, there is going to be a lot of trial and error, and that's okay. The materials you're working with are super cheap. Don't be scared if you think you're going to make a mistake. You will. We all do. And that's okay. I mean, you're dealing with resin that if you have a full size bust, maybe 4 inches tall, right? The price on that in materials is going to be 15 cents. And that's if you're using like really high end resin, and even less if you're using PLA on an FDM machine. So, temperature concerns, if you live in any place that has extreme climate or anything like that, or if you're worried about air circulation and things like that, particularly with resin printers, because you do want good quality air circulation for that. Um, just research beforehand. The tolerances and all of that for any particular printer are always going to be listed out. And I think people will be pleasantly surprised about how durable printers are now. I mean, they can deal with a lot of shit in a lot of environments and still put out amazing stuff. So, like I said, printers have come a long, long way, and this is one of the best times to get into it because all of it is so damn user friendly, and so much of the guesswork has been taken out.
Excellent. Yeah, I was going to ask about temperature in getting into the. Now you want to stream
Hmm.
your build on your 3D printer. Well, lights
Hmm.
produce heat, and
Yes,
that's going into it. So if printer technology has advanced to a point where it can kind of account for little fluctuations here and there, that's awesome.
absolutely. Yeah. And for something, because I've streamed when Chopper was still active, Chopper being my 3D printer, um, I would stream Chopper printing stuff set to like lo-fi music just because I wanted to put something up on stream. With the FDM printers, again, not a huge issue because the standard FDM printer has the hot end, which actually puts out the
Hmm.
plastic, and the bed itself, which is heated for the plastic to adhere. But the temperature of the bed is at a much, much lower temperature than the actual hot end. I would have to set up like stadium level Klieg lights in my lab to change the surface temperature of that plate. So, and with the resin printers, now streaming resin printers is a little bit trickier because it's very hard to see what's going on even when you have those clear plastic cases, because they're usually tinted to prevent UV light from entering. So they're going to be this really kind of golden yellow or this really deep dark red. Pointing lights at it isn't going to necessarily affect it too much unless you were sitting there with like a UV flashlight, and then what are you doing? Um, I would say for people who want to stream that kind of stuff, it's just going to be hard to get any sort of picture of what's going on inside the resin printer, especially since you have a giant plate and a resin bed, and that bed's
Hmm.
about yay thick. So you are literally not going to see anything until that bed clears the plate, and then for at least a few more inches to even understand what the hell's going on. Whereas the FDM, it's only you have a bed, you are watching this thing basically with plastic Play-Doh shape this thing up into something, right? So just keep that in mind. Also, if you're any kind of content creator wanting to stream this stuff, and you just really find those time lapse 3D printing videos really soothing, you're probably going to want to go with an FDM. Is what it is.
And your setup, what are the lights you use on it? What are you doing to account for shadows, and how many lights do you put around it? That type of thing.
So I have very cheap LED boxes that are on very cheap tripods. I got a deal on Amazon for like three with tripods for like $30, if that, something like that. And I literally just point them there from at least two angles just to cover the actual build plate. Now, there's always going to be shadow on the 3D printer that I used
Mhm.
because the printing head is mounted to a cross arm, which goes up and down over the bed, and the bed itself also moves. Um, but so long as I had the camera pointed in the right position with those two lights coming down, not a problem. Everyone can absolutely see what's going on. Like all things with streaming, like all things involving video, one, test. You're not going to know how something looks until you have everything set up, you turn the camera on, and you are looking at that image. So do that. Play around with your light setups. Go to places like YouTube that has hundreds and hundreds of videos on lighting and how best to light your videos and things like that. It's like even right now, I've got the three lights on me. I've got my key light, which is my Logitech box streamer light, and I've got my two colored cheap LED boxes. Similar setup that I would do for trying to photograph any of the things I make, uh, do streams for 3D printing and everything else. I sit down, and it's very much an artist mindset of what is going to look best to you. Look at it, set it up, play around with it, then put it in motion. That's the other thing, because things will change as motion is applied. But get it to a point where you are comfortable with it, and ask yourself honestly. And this has been my guiding star on all the things I make, all the videos I make, all the things I stream. Is this something you would watch? Is this something that would be of interest to you from the outside looking in? If you were not intimately involved in this stuff, would you want to watch it? If you can answer honestly, that's huge. And if your answer is yes, proceed. If your answer is no, figure out why.
All right, so we got a signal. We do that, and you're putting it into a video. Now, how are you capturing the camera? Like, say you want to put this into OBS, how would you
Mhm.
do that? Type
For
for the
streaming 3D printing.
Yeah, for streaming 3D printing.
So it's effectively the same way I have to whenever I was streaming, actually doing makers and crafting on Twitch. So first of all, I have two cameras. I have my main camera right here that I'm talking into right now, and I have my secondary camera, which is on its own gorilla style mini desk tripod that I can move wherever. And I even have this thing, which I can actually pull into frame, which is another long scissor arm that I can mount a camera to whenever I have to do like high up facing down shots. So setting up two cameras in OBS is pretty straightforward. It is the exact same process there of setting up your main camera. It's this name, setting up your main camera, pointing it at the actual camera you want to capture, setting it up that way. And I will say that I don't think people rely often enough when it comes to things like OBS on the built-in stuff that you can do in OBS for color correction, contrast, lighting. This is before you even really touch the settings on your camera. Most people don't know what LUTs or LUTs are, and the fact
Hmm.
that all those nice filters that you get on Instagram, you can use on OBS, all of them. You literally have a folder of these images and you tell OBS to point at them and you're good to go. So again, with that same mindset of setting things up so people can clearly see what's going on, whether it's my face, a 3D print, or something I'm making, I will set up the shot and I will make sure that the camera is the best position that doesn't impact what I'm doing at the time, that's the hardest part, honestly, particularly when I do mini painting, because I tend to want to curl up like a diseased shrimp, as Painting Pirate would say, but I need to be able to point the camera at it. So I need to put it in a position where I'm not in its way, it's not in my way, that sort of thing. And all of that is done well in advance of me hitting go live. For my makers and crafting streams, there's anywhere between 2 hours and 3 hours of setup beforehand, just making sure everything looks good, everything's clearly seen, that my exposure is right, and all that stuff. And that all just comes from practice of me setting it up beforehand, writing down settings if I have to, just in case there's a Windows update and OBS changes everything and all that nonsense. Take the time and take the effort in all things when dealing with video. Take the time and take the effort. Um, because your first hurdle in any videos or streaming is going to be audio. Your second big hurdle is going to be video, and you want that to look nice.
All right, couple of questions. How do I like?
Streaming does actually help my posture.
Yes.
Yes, Wika.
Yeah. All right. How do I like my name to be said? DC Lasair. If you just say DC, that's fine. When I kind of came up with it, I used a nickname that a great uncle of mine gave me when I was a kid. It's just what he would say. And because people would mess up my first name a lot, I got sick of it. So just DC, perfect. Uh,
Actually, to speak a little bit more on that, with the posture thing, I found that anytime I have a painting session on stream and I'm done, it's like, yeah, I'm tired from being on, I'm tired from entertaining everything, but my back doesn't hurt. I do mini painting out in our living room while we're watching something. Holy shiza. I sit up and it's like snap, crackle, pop, Rice Krispies. I sound like a decrepit game of Yahtzee. It's terrible. So I'm almost getting into the mindset of maybe I just should only mini paint at my desk and pretend the camera's on because it makes me sit up more.
yes. And speaking of posture things, get yourself a good chair. Um,
Yes.
I mean, you can see we both have secret lab chairs. I got mine cheap from a friend, but really get yourself a
Painting
decent
course.
painting corset.
So fun fact, this secret lab chair is fantastic for streaming. It is not good for working in the lab. Unfortunately, I have to get a different chair. Alas, not all
Alas,
chairs are created equal.
no. So yeah, do your research on chairs. They help. I started having back issues. I had a perfectly serviceable office chair, but once I started streaming, once I started doing more things in front of the computer, my back started hurting. Once I got this chair, that all went away. So yes, it's an extra expense, but
Worth it.
it's worth it. It will save you so much
Absolutely
pain.
worth it. Honestly, at this point, one of the other things aside from a different share that will fit both my work balance and my streaming computer balance is I want a standing table. I need a standing table at this point because I've been way too sedentary. And one of the things I used to do leatherworking, and one of the things I miss about leatherworking is I had a nice standing workbench that I
Mhm.
would do all my stuff at. And I really, really miss that. So, yes, we've gone from tech to posture tips with DC and Zero. Next up, the chiropractor hour.
Yeah. We
Invest in what you're in, your bed, your shoes, your chair. 100%.
yep.
100%.
So we take tangents here if you're new. So
Just a little bit.
we do get
What were
around
we
to the
talking
topic
about?
again. 3D printers printing
3D
using
printers.
OBS to
Right.
print.
So yeah, 3D print yourself a chair.
Yeah, just do
You can do
that.
that.
That's easy.
That's honestly one of my favorite videos, maker videos on YouTube, is the trend of 3D printers, people who own 3D printers who are into that stuff, using 3D printers to create more 3D printers.
The machine that can create itself.
Yep.
Brilliant. And by the way, look that up if you want like a weird kind of thought experiment thing. Look into machines that can create themselves and things like that. Just Google it. It's a rabbit hole, and
Yeah.
it can be fascinating.
By the time you get to gray goo event, stop. It's just you're going to depress yourself and terrify yourself. Just stop when you see those words. Again, more dark arcana that I cannot possibly unlearn.
All right. Anything you're looking forward to in 3D printing?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a recent development, bless Texas Instruments for this. So just to let me preface this, I explained a little about how resin printers work. And it's pretty much the same thing every time in one or two variants. You either have the bright LCD screen that displays an image of the slice, or you have a bright projector and a mirror that projects and bounces that image of the slice up into the resin. Texas Instruments came out with a printer that uses an array, a battery of it's something like 200 individual tiny mirrors to more accurately focus and pinpoint light into the resin at different depths and at different contrast to bump up the quality even more. We're talking to within microns of quality in this little thing. It's not exactly a production model yet, but the fact that the tech is there and that
Mm-hmm.
you will also get not just cleaner prints out of this, you'll also get stronger prints out of this because it is curing to levels below normal surface levels and things like that, which will help greatly with some of the problems with resin printing as far as, fiddly bits being too brittle, things like that. I'm really excited for this stuff to come out. I'm also excited for Creality, that conveyor belt one I mentioned earlier. That
Mm-hmm.
was their first pass at it. All right. I'm excited for what they do next because I've seen some of the stuff from the trade shows and they have some wild things like turntable printing and a rolling small conveyor belt that has a delta printer on top. So what a delta printer is imagine your print head is supported by three articulating arms. That's a delta printer. Most printers, you're going to have a print head that has its own bar. It'll go up and down on two or one screws, sort of things like that. Sometimes the bed will just move down. Sometimes the bed will move below it. A delta printer literally just has the bed, a suspended thing, and three arms, which means it can move through that space much faster, much more accurately, and prints faster. Well, they're basically combining the best of both worlds with this conveyor belt system and a delta print head that can move. And it's like, I don't care if I don't have flying cars and a jetpack at this point. The future is fucking rad.
When it can 3D print a sandwich, I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, as soon as we get Star Trek style, wow, I have to turn in my nerd card. I forgot the name for the thing that makes things in Star Trek. You order computer Earl T. Bot.
right.
Shit. No, computer, you shush. Sorry. My Alexa is named that. Replicator, thank you. I was like, matter recombine. No, that's not it. Snack teleporter. No, that's not it.
The thing that makes Earl Grey hot.
Yes. But that's interesting you mentioned that because you can print food with FTM printing. There is literally spools of food grade stuff, basically. So I've seen cheese 3D print. This sounds so great.
Oh, I'm losing you.
Printing,
You're
protein printing, straight up meat printing. Um, there's also the fact that you have metal 3D printing and wood 3D printing, or on the huge scale, you have a development company that basically uses 3D printing style for concrete homes. It's amazing to watch. It's seriously, seriously cool stuff. Being able to build out the entire facade of a multi-room home in just a few hours, it's fantastic.
excellent. Yeah, 3D printing is very exciting. Everything they're doing in it, and it's just fascinating to see and hear about all that. Do you have, before we move on to another topic, you have any other things you want to say about 3D printing?
It's fun. Do it. I'm serious. I'm not sponsored by any 3D print company. Though if anyone 3D print company wants to sponsor me, I'm not going to say no. Seriously, if it's just on the hobby side of things, right? If say like me, I'm a Star Wars fan. I've printed off replica lightsabers that I'm going to be doing the full prop treatment on for Catherine and I, just because I could. Basically it opens the gateway not only for making your own things, but also just for being that sort of kid again and being able to make the stuff and get the stuff that you wanted as a kid but couldn't, or things that will just improve stuff around the house. Like I've printed off stuff on my 3D printer that helps us around the house. I can print off vases and whatnot for our gardening. I can print off things that make using certain tools easier for Catherine because she doesn't have like giant fucking hands and things like that. It's not just on the side of printing out terrain or printing out minis. You can print out like the pegboard you might see behind me, that black thing with all the stuff on it. All those holders were printed off on my 3D printer. I didn't have the money to be able to go out and buy those things, but I needed them for organization. So just the fact that I can do stuff like that is fantastic. If you have any concerns about price or anything, it's super cheap to get into these days. There's a wealth of information online, and I promise if you give it a go, you'll be up in 3D printing in no time.
It sounds like the biggest expense is the printer itself, but once you have
Mhm.
that, you can print so much that you'll probably make up for that cost easily.
100%. 100%. And again, we're just talking on the hobby side of things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people that will tell you do not monetize your hobbies. But if for whatever reason you decide to, being making tchotchkes and things like that for Etsy, a 3D printer is a absolute godsend.
All right. So, yay, 3D printing. Woo! We covered that. Uh,
Confetti.
confetti. I would like to talk to you a little bit about mini painting.
Yes.
We talked about that with Cypher of Tear the other week, and you had shown me a air gun, I think, that attached to
Hmm.
USB. Could you tell me about that a little
Um,
more?
yeah, 1 second. Actually, it's right behind me. Hold
All
on.
right.
Haha. I love this thing. So, for those of you wanting to get into mini painting, and possibly looking at things like airbrushing, but you don't have room for things like a compressor. This is an airbrush compressor. I literally screw my airbrush gun to the top of this thing, and then I turn it on, and it gives me the exact pressure I need for airbrushing. It charges via USB. There's several different brands. This is the Yufu one, and it's literally this small, and it charges up in minutes and gives me everything. Now I have a compressor, right? I have a compressor, I have the airbrush booth, everything like that. But it just goes to show again, technology progresses, things become cheaper and smaller, always. And with airbrushing, which again, I will be the first to point out, if you want to get into mini painting, no, you don't need an airbrush. An airbrush is cool, but it's a tool. You have to learn how to use the tools at your disposal first, and then you can upgrade. Um, but yeah, I had a friend recently who the last time they did any sort of airbrushing was uh, dating myself here. It was in an auto shop class in the 90s, and they're used to the big boy air compressors, which will rattle your skull from across the garage and everything else. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, one, air compressors are much nicer and quieter these days, and two, you can just get this, and that's all you need.
And you still need plenty of ventilation when you're dealing with that paint.
100%. At the very least, if you do not have any kind of airbrush booth, which you can find some great ones on Amazon that are collapsible, very, very small. Mine folded up is about the size of a very, very small duffel bag. We're talking like yay big, yay deep. You still want some kind of respirator on your face. Anytime you're dealing with any sort of fumes and stuff that do not occur naturally within the human body, you want some kind of ventilation. So even though I'm doing my airbrushing in a booth which has an exhaust, it's sucking all this stuff out, I will still go ahead and wear the compressor, the respirator, just in case. Better safe than sorry. And a good rule of thumb, as always, is can you smell it? If yes, you are breathing it in. You need protection.
Excellent. We need that on a shirt. Can you smell it? Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you can smell it, that's the biggest thing. Because I remember working in other maker spaces and whatnot, and they would say something to the tune of, because I'll wear a respirator whenever I'm working with foam and my hot wire cutting tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the smoke coming off that stuff is toxic. So I would be in these maker spaces and they're like, it's okay. I mean, I can smell the burning, but all the smoke's over there. I'm like, if you can smell it, you are inhaling it. That's how smelling works. So maybe put on a respirator and open a damn window.
Yeah. Get that air cycling. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, that's a throwback we can add on to the resin printing because photosensitive resin smells horrible. And there's just no two ways around it. The cool thing these days, though, is that like Elegoo printers in particular, come with built-in purifiers, air purifiers that sit inside the printer as it's printing to help tone that down. Now, it's not absolutely perfect, mind, but given how it used to be, where the one resin printer that I had, um, we almost fumigated the entire damn our damn apartment, right? Just because I opened the lid. We've come so far.
Excellent. All right. We are going to switch topics here.
Yeah.
If anyone has questions on 3D printing, we will be taking them for the rest of the episode, even though we're not talking directly about 3D printing. So it's
Or
fine
mini
to,
painting.
or mini
Yeah.
painting. Put them in chat, whatever you'd like. Um, almost had to evacuate the apartment. Oh no.
It was bad.
So we're going to switch over to streaming gear because Rode made, if you don't know Rode, they are a long-time audio gear company. I was trying to think place, website, company.
They make things what deal with the sounds.
Sound. Yeah. They make the thing. They had some big announcements at the I can't even remember the event. My brain's just mush.
Was it CE3? No, the NAB
Eh,
show in Las
yeah,
Vegas.
yeah, yep. And so here's the, oops, I'm putting that in the wrong chat. Hold on.
I mean, you can send it to my chat again, I guess.
So they announced 5 different things here, and some of this for streaming here, and we're going to go through these.
Hmm.
Rode does make good quality gear as far as we
Absolutely.
go, and I don't use any of it. So,
I mean, I do, but what a glowing endorsement that was. They make amazing gear. I mean, I won't touch it, but fantastic gear.
but they do have some interesting stuff. They're one thing they're doing for a new product they're coming out. They mostly you've probably heard of the Rodecaster Pro 2. And this is a big old audio board. You have your levers on it to control the volume, all sorts of buttons, all sorts of great stuff on it. Well, they had a feature in there that they decided to flip the switch on, which was for wireless microphones. And so
Hmm.
now they have the wireless Go 2. And they're these little rectangles. If you look at the article there posted there, you can see the picture. And I'll put this article in the YouTube description of this video when it goes to YouTube.
Oh,
So,
actually, I've got the perfect example right here.
yeah,
They're about the size of this mint box.
yep,
And so if you want to wear a mint box, it's right there.
it's right there. Yeah. Now, what's nice about them, their form factor is a little weird. Zero and I were talking about this before we went live, is
Hmm.
that we're used to lapel mics, which are these little tiny things you can tuck a wire in and you barely notice them unless someone's wearing jewelry and you hear it, clanking on it. Then you're well aware there's a microphone. But usually it's just this little thing that gets pinned right about here, and it's hidden wire. Well, now you're wearing a mint box, and it looks weird, but if they deliver good audio
Hmm.
and you have a setup, say you have a camera and you want to do something in a room with people, say a actual play or something like that,
Hmm.
and you give everyone one of these little things and you have them going into your mixer or the software that I think it will talk to software that you can then push out to whatever you need to.
Hmm.
You have high quality mics without getting these big boom mics, setting them up everywhere. And these could potentially be a really big change to how we do the things in the streaming space.
Absolutely, for sure. And the other thing is, I have already seen, I've seen some YouTube reviews on these and similar devices with the wireless thing. Um, 100% going to be a game changer, particularly for group conversations. Because the brilliant thing about any lavalier mic is that it is also basically a miniaturized shotgun mic, which means it is only recording from one direction, whatever is in front of its receiver, and that's usually going to be pointed at the voice box, and that's where the audio is going to come from. So no longer, even if you are in a studio environment, are you going to have grips with the long boom arms and the shotgun mics and things like that? But more importantly, for folks who are doing things like podcasts, up until now, you would either have to set up two very nice mics, or maybe you're just getting started and you have a blue snowball mic and you set it to omnidirectional and the quality's just not there yet. With something like this, particularly with the ability to pick up multiple signals and be able to parse that through the software on the PC side, you've got everything you need to go. And anything after that is pure audio engineering and editing, which is such niceness to have in our lives, particularly for us, independent content creators.
Hmm. Yeah, so I'm kind of excited about these. Waiting on, I haven't seen a price for them yet,
Mhm.
and there's probably going to be a bunch of YouTube videos on the quality, and it sounds like there's already some out there.
Hmm.
So keep track of those because, yeah, these could change things and also get you into the Rode ecosystem a little bit too, which is ultimately what they want. But hey, if a product works really good, that was great. Rex had a guy freaking out that his lav mic was not picking him up as he had it aimed at his shoulder instead of his mouth.
Like, well, no, sir. Does your shoulder have something to tell us? Wow.
That's amazing.
Also, just a word on mics. Caveat emptor. Um, you're going to always hear people tell you that this and this is the best mic. It's Sarah Sundry. I'm here to tell you that no, there are good mics for your particular recording situation, for your particular recording needs. Figure out what those are first, and then you can buy a mic accordingly because there are a lot of different types of mics out there. And I'm not just talking between USB and XLR. I am talking shotguns, condensers, omnidirectional, cardioid. The list goes on and on. You want a deep dive? Audio engineering is it. But for what you're doing, dear young streamer, because if you're going to get into streaming, a simple single directional um, XLR mic like what I have, or a good USB mic is all you need. And yes, unless you are just an absolute audiophile, the USB mics you can find today sound just as good as XLR mics.
Yep.
Don't let people tell you otherwise.
If you go to my YouTube, I have videos on audio, and I talk about various things, particularly with the Stream Deck and everything. And one of my points is this mic right here, is the Wave 3 by Elgato, which is
Nice.
a USB mic. And I talk about how you can use VSTs on the Wavelink software, or even in OBS, even if you don't have the a device that gives you the Wavelink software, because you do have to buy something from Elgato in order to use the Wavelink software. You can do this in OBS and create virtually kind of a sound you want as well. And also, yeah, prep your room. There's ways to do it. There's plenty of videos on what to do, how you can kind of soundproof your room for cheap. I mean, just like a curtain
Oh,
before
100%.
to
Yeah.
block the sound is brilliant. So yeah,
It's like what people don't know whenever they watch me on stream is that just behind this camera, 2/3 of my wall is sound tile. So because I live in an apartment, and let's face it, the acoustics aren't so good. But yeah, just blankets, towels. I've used towels before, curtains, all that stuff. Anything that is going to help absorb sound and dull the room tone. That's all you need.
hmm and I do say be careful with $50 microphones. Check reviews on those first. There are some good ones. There's also some bad ones. But if you're
Hmm.
looking at spending more than $50, say you're getting a Yeti, or this it was originally 150, you can find it for a little lower now.
Hmm.
120 around there. You're going to do fine.
Yeah.
You, yeah.
It's like, no, you do not need one of these like I've got. This was a gift because I could not afford it myself at the time. But also, again, your recording situation. I'm an entertainer. I'm a performer. I'm a voice actor. So yeah, springing the extra on a really nice mic actually makes sense. But by and large, nah. Get yourself a good quality USB mic, and you are good to go.
Yep. There's lots out there. And if you do want actual recommendations on a mic, reach out to me and I'll give you some at various price points. Just depending on your situation and things like that. And I will be more than happy to give you some guidance on there. Let's
Just
see
hit
here.
his tip jar after. You know his Kofi. Give
Yeah,
him money.
exactly.
He's giving you his time. Come on.
Kofi's right above my head. Uh,
Yep.
let's see here. VSTs are great for dialing in your voice tone. Take screenshots of your
Yep.
settings when you are happy with them. Keep notes. Exactly. I have
That,
screenshots of my settings. Yes.
that's the greatest thing. Reaper, who is an industry leader in not only DAWs and VSTs and things like that, they released an entire suite of VSTs for free that you can plug into OBS that gives you everything from your dynamic EQ to your audio gate to your compression, loudness maximizer, the works. It's all free and it's super, super simple to set up. Now, technically, right now, I'm running everything through this mic that is going through my, it's not even an audio mixer, it's just an audio interface from Focusrite to VoiceMod. That just simplifies things for me. I don't need a virtual line in, virtual line out, or any of that stuff. So even if your only option is something like VoiceMod, it works. I use it all the damn time, but the options are still there for free to get really powerful tools to really tweak your sound. And like we were mentioning earlier, when it comes to your lighting, your video, all that stuff, record yourself, play it back, see how it sounds, tweak as necessary. Then you're good to go. Always, always record yourself first.
Yep. The sound you're hearing on my voice, I have VSTs on it, on my voice coming out to you. So it sounds more like I hear myself than me through the microphone and everything like that. And so it really helps with warmth and room.
Mhm.
And I listened to myself a lot. You can set it up so you can hear your voice in your headphones. And I turn that off when I'm streaming because I don't like that. My brain just doesn't function when I'm hearing myself and that through headphones. And then I'm also hearing myself talk. And yeah, it's a thing. But yeah, I just kept listening to myself. It took me a while to figure out what I was doing. I watched some videos on VSTs, and VSTs by and large are free. One thing,
Mhm.
you go to the Reaper website, you may see a big thing that's very expensive. You don't need that. Look for the VST plugin stuff. Those are free.
Unless you plan to make music, you don't
Unless,
need it.
yeah, unless you plan to make music, unless you're audio professionaling it up on a scale that needs this. Uh,
Mhm.
make sure the VSTs you're getting are free. There are plenty of out there, even if you, for whatever reason, you don't like Reaper, but Reaper does high quality stuff. There are plenty of options out there, and they are all free. And OBS is free, and you can apply these filters to OBS and get great quality sound.
Or you can just be like me and cheat and use voice mod. This is not even my real voice. My real voice sounds like Gilbert Gottfried after a helium bender. It's true.
Zero facts.
Zero facts. Put that on the internet. Hashtag it. Let's go.
So all that to talk about the wireless microphones by Rode.
Rode, call
Rode.
me.
Rode, you make cool things. One thing I do like here in the product image on the back of it is that one of the sides will have the left channel and the right channel displayed on the microphone itself,
Mm-hmm.
which is huge. To know that that thing is getting signal and then you don't see a signal somewhere else, that takes a lot of guesswork out of stuff. It's really helpful, and you get to see the levels. You get to see how loud that is right there at the base before it goes anywhere else. And to me, that's amazing.
It's huge. Yeah. Definitely for, pardon me, for real-time monitoring and adjusting, which if you're doing any, if you're doing pre-recorded stuff, a little bit easier on you. If you're doing any kind of live stuff, again, using the live play example, that's huge. Allowing who is ever at your mixer board to make those adjustments on the fly, being able to see that stuff in real time is amazing.
So yeah, well, so while the design seems a little awkward, if you're going to use them and you get good audio, hey, we just have to figure out better
It's
outfits. And
it's
like we
very
have,
colorful.
it is colorful. maybe we start sewing in road pockets into our shirts and things like that.
That's right. We're shilling out for Road. Let's go. Road. Call us. Not
Gosh.
kidding.
Okay, another thing they talked about is something I'm kind of curious about, but it's one of those things where it's the idea is great, but what I'm seeing, it's like it's almost there for me, but not quite yet.
Mhm.
And that is
The execution's not there.
the Streamer X. Now the
Also
cool,
the name.
yeah, cool thing. We're not in a Mega Man game, but but this is a smaller device and probably not much larger than a regular Stream Deck. It
Yeah, it
looks
looks
like,
about right.
yeah. And the cool part is you can use this to stream your video games and collect audio. So you can attach a video game console into this, have this go into your computer, and get a high quality up to 4K image, they claim, uh, going for your video game streams and have the audio in one box. That's
Hmm.
kind of cool.
Hmm.
Looking at it, there's two dials, for the headphone, one for the stream mix. I would like a little more granularity there.
Yeah.
Something like the Stream Deck, I could use more dials. Like I have, four different dials in front of me that are actually can be, near infinite because I just got to change the screens and then the dials do different things. But pretty much I have four dials in front of me that do different things. This has two. That's not quite the granularity I'm looking for. I think they could expand this board just a little bit, and then would be the product I'm truly interested in that I would really get. And it seems like it's almost there for me. But right now, I do have two separate devices. I have audio device and I have video capture device for my video game consoles that feed in my computer.
I do like the Simon Says buttons on it though. That's fun.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's when you showed this to me the other day, the first that popped into my mind was I'm amazed that it took this long for a product of this nature to actually come out. But looking at this thing, it's like realistically, what we're dealing with is two different control boards in one device, which ostensibly not that hard because they're also going to have minimal dialogue between each other, just the on-off functionality. My concern is that they're touting this as an XLR ready audio interface. When I am not seeing the usual accoutrements of an XLR audio interface, even the small one like a Scarlett TI2 or 2i2. Um, and of course, they don't have any of the shots of the back plugs and things like that. So it's like, tell me how it's going to deliver phantom power.
Hmm.
How is it going to use direct monitoring if I want to be able to monitor my own camera in my headphones and things like that? Very, very cool idea, but it's one of those because the package is so small, something had to be cut. And when you're getting into that kind of nitty gritty functionality at that point, it's like if you're going to cut off one of the things that makes an audio interface, you're better off just not doing the audio interface portion of this. You can also just turn this into like a standard mixer, like the when I say standard mixer, I don't mean true audio mixing. Um, Basically the same thing that we see on the latest iteration of the Stream Deck, with the individual volume controls, things like that, which you can do on a Stream Deck now. But it's still cool because everyone loves tactile knobs. I know I
Hmm.
do. This thing, it feels like I'm definitely right there with you that the idea is really cool. I'm amazed it took this long for something like this to come out, but it's lacking in functionality, in like key functionalities, not even the real tech geek sort of functionalities, just key functionalities that you want this kind of device to have.
Yeah. So it's an interesting first step. If you were in the Rode ecosystem and already had some of these, this might be a good addition to that. but as a first product, might not be the greatest choice. I
Mm-mm.
don't think from what we're seeing right now that I can recommend it as a, oh yeah, Rode makes this thing. You should definitely just get this thing and put it into your setup, because I'm not seeing it right now.
Mm-mm.
Opinion may change later because, again, we don't have a lot of reviews on these things. We have, hey, look at this. This is cool. This is a great idea. How well does it
Mm-hmm.
work? And for my purposes, just at looking at it, I can tell it isn't quite yet for me.
Yeah. I mean, we don't even have a price point on it. So even if they price it competitively, you're probably still going to be better off first generation just buying a capture card and an audio interface, but only if you need one.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to another cool thing, the Rodecaster Duo, which is basically taking their big Rodecaster Pro audio board and making it smaller. Again, you got 4 sliders. You have their Simon Says buttons on the side. And I'm just going to call them that
I'm
from
glad
now
that's
on.
catching on. I'm glad that one's sticking around.
So it has some knobs. It's, yeah, a smaller version, takes up less disk space, or desk space.
But probably disk space as well. I
As
mean, I
well.
don't know.
And yeah, it of course will work with the wireless microphones that we talked about, because
Mhm.
it better. At this point, you release wireless microphones and you have a new audio board. It should work with your new gear. And yeah, so if you like what you see in the big Rodecaster Pro 2 and you don't have a lot of desk space,
Mhm.
yeah, check out the Duo. Looks like it'll be good. Again, it's an audio interface. If that's the kind you like, go for it by all means.
This also seems a little bit like it's a direct response to the Beacon mics and the Beacon interface architecture. For those of you who don't know, if you've ever heard the name Go XLR, the go-to audio interface for ages with streaming and YouTube and
Hmm.
things like that, um, two of the engineers that helped design that device went on to create their own company called Beacon, and they sell really nice USB mics with their own mixers and everything involved. Um, if you get a chance to go check those out. Um, but stuff when I see stuff like this in particular, again, it just seems like call and response. Because I mean, it took Rode how long to come out with a viable response to the Go XLR, and then they dropped this one, and the functionality of it. Again, we don't have any pictures of how it works for the program on PC or anything like that, but it seems like a call and response to the Beacon stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I've been eyeing a Beacon for ever since they announced it. That's one of those things. I will gladly replace my XLR mic just for one of those microphones. That's how good they are.
Yeah, and no surprises to anyone that's been following this channel for a bit. I use a Stream Deck Plus for all my audio because Stream Decks. Uh, but the Plus, the knobs we were talking about earlier are on the Stream Deck Plus. That's
I'm
my
sorry. I'm
audio.
so happy you have one of those. It's like it's not even jealousy or anything. It's like my friend DC has one of those and it's fucking cool and I want
Yeah,
one.
it's really nice. I love it a lot. It's going to be it'll be a challenge for me to find something that replaces this
Hmm.
for audio, because it does exactly what I need, and the display is easy. I can program the buttons thousands different ways. There's functionality here that I wouldn't have put on an audio board, or I wouldn't have thought of put, but because Stream Deck's been doing the Stream Deck thing for a long time, they're like, yeah, we're going to put Stream Deck buttons on this and make an audio interface. I'm like, cool.
Absolutely.
And so we have all these things like the Beacon Mix Create and the Stream Deck Plus, and now we're
Hmm.
kind of getting that response from Rode
Hmm.
along the same design. So you have options.
Oh,
Now
lots of options. Yeah.
I'm going to recommend the Stream Deck, uh, but
Honestly, seconded. It's like if I would say if it's like if you need something that's like purely audio, still probably the Stream Deck. But if you're not wanting the extra versatility and everything else you can find in a Stream Deck, and you just want something like a beacon, just go with the beacon. If you're doing recording your singing, your instrument playing, voiceover, that sort of thing, doing a podcast, all that stuff. We are spoiled for options, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing what's come out in the last couple of years, and with the updates to OBS, that we can do all this other audio stuff that would take having a Go XLR before, and just within the
Hmm.
last year, we can almost entirely replace having these audio boards and just use OBS.
Hmm.
That's amazing. Audio is still a challenge. Don't get me wrong, but they've made it a lot
It's the final
easier.
boss.
Yeah, that's the final boss. All right, let's get into the Pod Mic USB, as they call it.
Yeah, about this.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, let me tell y'all something. Any descriptive that falls within the vein of broadcast grade means nothing. It means nothing. There is no prerequisites. There is no assigned stipulation for what broadcast grade means. It's complete fluff. I used to write these kinds of things. It's fluff. It means jack. What you are looking for is what kind of pattern the audio involved is, what kind of microphone it is, so you can match it to your situation. So, for instance, this says the Pod Mic USB is an ultra versatile broadcast grade dynamic microphone. Okay, so we know it's a dynamic microphone, so it's not necessarily a condenser microphone like you would find in a Snowball or a Yeti. For podcasting, streaming, and content creation, offers the same incredible sound quality and compact yet rugged form factor as the best-selling pod mic, with a powerful new feature up its sleeve: XLR and USB connectivity. So it's a pod mic USB, but also has XLR connectivity. That's going to that changes the sound profile of the microphone. That's what bothers me about this one. It's very sleek and very tiny, and looks like it's a true directional microphone, as in you speak into the end of it instead of having it face you. Let's see. When using digital USB output, offers a range of next generation feature. Stop with this stuff, and make it super flexible, including a Revolution preamp. That's what's weird to me. Preamp for any microphone, particularly ones you're going to have to run through an interface, is specifically for something that is going to be through XLR or plugging into an amp or providing some manner of phantom power to. The USB doesn't need that. So why is it a thing? And it just seems like we're throwing all these buzzwords out, and then like the audio professional in me is going, "What the fuck are you talking about? You're basically giving me Star Trek terminology that means nothing here." It's cool.
Hmm.
Like, if you're looking at a picture of the camera right now, I can tell you this thing is cool. And I can see people getting a lot of fun out of this, especially if it actually has a zero latency headphone output, because that's huge. But everything else is just like it just seems like they're trying to unnecessarily inflate the groundbreaking notion of this microphone when no, it's not. It's just not. And until I hear more about it with, specific microphone terminology, I mean, it's like, it's cool. It's a mic. What does it do? How does it sound? Mhm. Where and what can we use it with, you know? Sorry, that shit annoys
Exactly.
me.
No. That's fine. That's great. Yeah, right now it it's nice that it can be either
Mhm.
USB or XLR. Great, but we kind of have solutions now for these things, and USB mics sound pretty darn good. So I'm not sure on all the tech speak here that or marketing speak that goes on here.
What one more thing. I just read this. Exactly the same as the original, albeit with a sleek new finish and studio grade pop filter. Remember what I said about broadcast grade? Y'all, uh, a pair of nylon pantyhose strung around a shape made out of, you know, a coat hanger is studio grade if you use it right. Studio grade means nothing. It's absolute double speak.
And pop filters, if you don't know, is that round thing in front of Zero's mic. And if I put my mic up a little bit, this thing here on my mic,
Yep.
this square bit, and they're to just get rid of popping and things like that.
Plosives and the like.
And yeah,
Oh,
pantyhose on coat hanger accomplishes
but
the
fun
same
trick.
thing.
Even if you don't have that stuff, if you're doing any kind of recording at home, particularly if you're trying to get to like voiceover and whatnot, if you're worried about your plosives, your hard consonants, and everything else, when you talk, do this. This, holding your finger just in front of your lips, has the exact same effect as a screen filter. It's just annoying to have to do all your recording like this, but it does the same function.
Yeah, and so when you're looking at audio, you're just looking for the pickup pattern
Mm-hmm.
and what sounds like to you, and are you getting volume out?
Yeah.
that's that's the important thing is are you getting volume out? If we were talking about broadcast standards, there's something different for video, but audio is still are you getting that volume out? Is it loud enough to be heard?
Mm-hmm. It's just
And
like you're
yeah.
normalizing levels. I mean, YouTube has a negative 6 decibel level. Your standard TV broadcast has a negative 18 level for speech. Music can vary anywhere between freaking negative 10 decibels and negative 18 decibels on the leveling end. It's just like, ah.
So yeah, just when you see those terms, just be wary of it. And
Caveat emptor.
know that. Okay. Anything else you want to say about this microphone?
It looks great. And, you know, I whinged, but it's Rode, so I know it's going to be a decent microphone.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish they would stop writing press copy like this because it's annoying. It tells me nothing. I mean, they could have just wrote out the new Sound Capture X 5000, and that would tell me more than what this garbage did.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so the next thing they have on the list is if you have all your road stuff and you're in their ecosystem and you want to carry it around with you somewhere, there's a backpack now, the Roadcaster
Yeah,
backpack. And yeah, sometimes I appreciate companies going, "Hey, here's our stuff. You probably want to carry this around with you to somewhere. Here's a convenient way to do it."
yeah.
And yeah,
I mean, there's not much we can say on it. It's a
yeah.
purpose-built carrying case
Okay.
for road stuff.
Yep.
It has a zipper. Um, that's that's
That's a
important.
yeah.
And it's black and nylon by the looks of it.
You can
This
adjust the shoulder straps.
this is
Um,
this is gripping stuff, y'all.
but it is the Turbo Incubulator Marketing Club. Excellent. And
Maybe Rode shouldn't reach out to us at this point.
Road, we like certain things and we will play with them and support certain things all day, but other things,
Yeah.
yeah. The final thing in the Rode announcements are the wireless go-to charging case, which is pretty cool that they thought of this.
I do like
That
that. Yeah.
you can just take those wireless mics, you know, the Mint box, and plug this in anywhere you go, charge them up, and have them ready to go. 30 hours of continuous use. So I hope you're not broadcasting for 30 hours straight. But
Good Lord.
um, that is what they claim. And yeah, that's a great little add-on to, here's a product. Now we're not going to wait a while to release something useful along with it. We're already giving you that something useful you can
Yeah,
buy.
I do
And I
like that.
really appreciate when companies do that, when it's the forethought of giving you something that is also useful to a new product out, and not like, oh, we need to do something about this now. What should we do?
Hmm.
And then it's 4 months later. Dero, the people on cam do not ever endorse my nonsense.
I
Thank
can
you for
neither
the
confirm nor
disclaimer.
deny that for legal counsel, but I got a free road backpack out of it, so sure. I did not actually get a backpack out of it, no.
All right, we're going to take a break here because I need to get up and stretch a minute.
That's good.
And when we come back, we'll have some time left. Ask your questions, and we will probably start talking about Zelda. So,
Probably.
all right, welcome on back, everybody. Hope you had a good break. We have a question from chat from Rex. Question: did you all cover pre-show audio checks or vocal warm-ups? We did not talk about that,
Nope.
so we can do that now.
Sure. DC, I'd love to hear about yours. What are your pre-show audio checks and warm-ups?
So, pre-show audio checks are making sure I have sound. If I don't see making sure it's working. If I don't see the sound coming into OBS, or there is a level going on and I don't know why because there's no audio anywhere, I gotta track that down and figure out why there's phantom audio. Or is it just a program I have on that's not going into my headphones because I don't usually need to listen for it, and it's just making sure the audio works, that there's levels, that they're good, that I have them adjusted because everyone speaks at different volumes. So, I turn Zero down a little bit. Maybe he's not as loud as or, maybe he's louder than other guests. So I have to turn him down a
I'm
bit. And
I'm way too loud. Been told that one all my life. Do you do any warm-ups?
so I probably should do more warm ups, but
You think?
yeah,
It helps.
it
It really
helps. It
does
does
help.
help. But sometimes it depends what I'm doing. If it's really weird, my mindset on these things, and I gotta kind of change it a bit. If I am recording a video just for YouTube, I will kind of warm up my voice a bit. I'll either talk through the script or go up and down and register, that type of thing. Make sure my mouth goes kind of stretch it out a bit.
I just do the, standard when I'm doing my audio checks, check one, check two, check one, check two. Mostly looking to make sure that my audio level is within the easiest way to think about it is the high green, early yellow area. That's sort of the sweet spot when it comes to these things. And my vocal warm-ups are usually just nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Or I start singing the opening to Rapper's Delight. There's no in between.
And depending on what you're doing, there are different vocal warm up techniques. If you're singing, there are certain techniques where you're just going up and down in the scales and making all sorts of weird noises and probably scaring people in the next room. But, so you can look
I'm
those
on a
up.
watch list.
I relate the story to others that that you mentioned on your stream, that a voice director wanted you to shout and you had to eventually wind up in the hallway because you were so loud, and the
Yep.
director still wanted that energy of you almost blowing out the audio board and the audio
Yeah.
engineer. So
That is my one claim to fame for my time at ADV. I am, as far as I am aware, their only voice actor that managed to send every single one of their meters into the red with a single yell. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a reason. Even though I had an invite at Funimation, I knew it was never going to be for like Dragon Ball Z because that show is like 85% screaming, and I don't think they could deal with that for me.
That's some Tom Jones level of impressive vocal power.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's my one useless mutant power. I'm sure I'm gonna be on X Force any minute now. Yeah. No, sorry. My other useless mutant power is to take any song that I know and be able to sing it in the style of a 1930s radio crooner. Completely worthless,
Amazing.
but it's mine.
I love that. That'd be great. Yeah. So, as Zero was mentioning, making sure your audio doesn't go into the red and you're in that sweet spot, basically. Now,
Hmm.
depending on what you're using, maybe you can go in the red a little bit and it still sounds fine, but usually you want to avoid the red, especially going like way into it because then you're just blowing out your speakers. So sometimes in some programs a little bit can be okay, just depending on how the software was made because there's so much variance in these things.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, if you're in the like Zero said, if you're in the yellow, you're doing good.
Yeah, it's usually the sweet spot.
So yeah, and anything else you want to cover about what you do for audio?
Honestly, that is pretty much it. Anything else, you're starting to get into real deep dive audio engineering stuff. It's like I mentioned to you before the stream, when people are messing with things like histograms or
Mm-hmm.
parametric EQ and things like that. It's one of those, if you don't know what you're doing at that point, leave it alone. Because unless you're one of those absolute audiophiles that can tell the difference between, you know, the high end 15K and then just a couple of steps down into the 800K, then it's not going to do you any good to flip those things around.
Yeah, and if you want to, people can train themselves to hear these things, or they can just
Mhm.
naturally pick them up. And you can do that if you want, but how large of a difference is that actually going to make to what you're doing?
Mhm.
Especially doing this thing,
Oh,
streaming.
this
Yeah,
none,
none.
none, no difference because we can hear everything at least on our end if we're going to record something. By the time it reaches y'all, say through Twitch's servers or the back end of YouTube. Here's a fun fact for any of you posting videos to YouTube. YouTube has their own in-house thing which changes your audio after you upload. So it doesn't matter like what you meticulously set at over here and tweaked. It's like no, it's going to be this other thing that's compressed and normalized and all that fun stuff over here. Now you want to engineer with that in mind, and you absolutely can. But at that point, it's like the very fine-tuned minor tweaking is not going to matter. So the biggest thing you're looking for is presence, which is going to be your bass. And that is going to have the oomph and the power and things behind it. The warmth of it, that's going to be your middle of the road. And then anything else you can get away with knocking a fair bit of your treble off the high end because a lot of that stuff's not going to come through anyway. Now, you still want it there so you don't sound like you're underwater, but again, it's that kind of fine-tune tweaking you don't necessarily need for streaming or video production to larger sites like YouTube.
Yep. And talking about VSTs earlier, where you can narrow down it. VSTs also, there are some where you watch a video and they just say, yeah, if you want to take down the bass in your voice, just put this one down or up or whatever sounds good to you. And they don't do that deep dive. And honestly, that's probably all you need. Uh,
100% all you need.
Elgato's VST is real easy. They make you can download it and use it and whatever, but they have their own VST thing, and they just section it off. Okay, here's, I forget the names, but, here's the nasal portion of your voice. Do you want more or less of it? And
Hmm.
it's just the graph, and you move the dot up and down, and they just mark the areas, what they do to your voice.
Hmm.
And you can just set that and get great results.
All this stuff being much more user friendly these days is, even for someone who knows all this shit, it's a lifesaving, because it's
Hmm.
one look, one simple click, and done, and I can get on with my day.
It's especially useful because a lot of us, like Zero and myself, we don't have separate camera people, separate audio people who would normally have this knowledge to do all these things. And
Mhm.
we just need stuff to go. And so that's why these new advancements that have been made, especially in the last couple of years with the streaming gear, is so great. That because
But
we are all
streaming's
one
easy.
person shows, you know.
Streaming's easy, didn't you know?
Like when I give my talk about producing at conventions, one of my slides is you are doing 5 different jobs or more.
Hmm.
You're the lighting, you're the sound, you're the director, you're the camera person, you're the switcher. These are all individual jobs normally in a proper studio, right? And but it's all to you, and you need to make it happen. And there's some intricacies you can deep dive into any one of those things and become an expert in there, but it's sort of the jack of all trades problem, you know.
Hmm. But we're telling you,
Yeah,
don't do it.
don't
Don't
you
be like us.
don't be
Just
like us.
we are cautionary tales by this point. Look upon the wrecks that used to be men and despair. It's a happy show.
It's a
Happy
happy show,
show.
yay! I've been in video tech a long time, so yeah,
Whew.
you're just normal men, just innocent men.
I love you, Catherine. We're just normal men. We're all just innocent men. So shall we open the floor to any more questions before we
Yes.
ramble on to our inevitable
Well,
Zelda tangent?
Jeer the rhyme of the ancient history.
Wow. Wow.
I don't think I can get through that without laughing. So, people just read what
Wow.
Rex wrote at the bottom of your
Hmm.
screens there, because it's brilliant. That's amazing. I love that. Okay. Thank you, Rex. Uh, all right. You can continue to ask questions, but warning, we are going into a Zelda zone, specifically Tears of the Kingdom, because we are
Hmm.
both very excited for this game. May 12th, by the way. May
Oh,
12th.
have you pre-ordered?
I've pre ordered.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
I was looking at some of the GameStop pre orders, but I'm like, I usually just get digital versions and call it good. So,
Yeah, we had to get the digital version.
yeah.
That's what we could afford with the move coming up, but I'll freaking take it.
Yeah.
I had made a tweet about the fact that I have the receipt email for the order still in my email inbox. It's at the top. It's starred. It makes me smile every time my email, which is lovely.
Looking forward to this game because we've both completed Breath of the Wild. We played Breath of the Wild a lot. Love that game. We love Zelda just as a whole. But Breath of the Wild did so much cool things. And now we have this promise of even more cool things, especially with just going to start off with the coolest thing, the fuse technology. Being able to attach things to other things. You want a thing to go, you got to attach a fan to the back of that thing to make you
Hmm.
go forward.
Oh, the Ultra Hand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for both of these things, honestly. But then, of course, that final trailer, and I was like, I knew it was going to be a problem. And then I saw Link riding on a Rock'em Sock'em robot of his own creation to
Mhm.
face a stone talus with a camp of bokoblins on top of it. I'm like, that's it. This is going to be Pacific Rim Hyrule edition, and that's all I'm going to do. That's it. You need to find Zelda. No, I don't. No, I
I
really
just need to
don't.
make cool things. I'm going to try my best to make a hoverboard, whether that's a piece of wood
Oh,
and some fans. And if if reality can't give me a hoverboard, I'm going to make one
hmm
in Tears of the Kingdom.
oh man, I wonder. That's something to consider because I know they have this amazing physics engine
Hmm.
in the build that has been broken to comedic effect in Breath of the Wild many times. I wonder how that's going to play with things like the fans and flying because everything we've seen so far has been, fan on each corner.
Hmm.
So I wonder if they have, now I'm getting into my nerd bag here, a pre-programmed stable flight pattern where if you had two of them, they will just literally lift, but will not yaw or roll. Oh, oh, this is going to bear some experimentation. Oh
Yeah.
darn! Gonna
Oh
have to
darn.
experiment
Oh
in Tears of
no.
the Kingdom.
I'm going to put a fan on the bottom of the thing, put my weight on top of it, and see how much lift I get.
What happened? Well, I had a board and I had a thing that shot a laser, and I put a fan on it, and now I'm not welcome at that stable anymore. Oops.
Oops. Sorry, Lon Lon Ranch.
Oh, the Zora didn't need their city. I mean, let's face it. They can
Right.
live in any puddle. It's fine. I did mean to, crash Hyrule's version of the Death Star into the joint, but hey,
Yeah.
you know, all right,
Oh,
Zelda, because I see no more questions.
why is this mountain shorter? Exactly.
I still never got to find out, and it's one of those brilliant bits of uh world narrative by discovery that they had in the game of what caused that giant asshole clean cut through the mountain
Yeah.
in Breath of the Wild. I loved all the fan theories about it, but I still would have loved to see like an actual definitive answer for that one.
Why is this mountain shorter? Yeah, Death Mountain lost some height here. I think we just call it ETH Mountain now.
Yep,
Yeah,
just ETH.
ETH.
No deep. It's ETH.
ETH. We took
Trust
away
me,
the
it's been
D.
deed enough. Yeah. What, the Gorons are still there? Ooh, bad call. Time to relocate. So my question for you, since we are
Mhm.
getting into our Zelda bag, why do you think we have to quote unquote find Zelda? Where do you think she is?
It so I have this idea that they were kind of prepping us for these types of things with Hyrule Warriors,
Mm-hmm.
where Hyrule Warriors creates an alternate timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we are going to be messing with time or, alternate timelines in some way. And that's part of the journey is that she is somewhere else. I think they slyly prepped us for they did kind of an experiment with another company,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of putting in our minds that alternate timelines can be a thing.
Yeah. Which, let's face it, Zelda timeline, not necessarily a new concept. Hi, how
Right.
you doing, child era?
Yep. And we also have that too. The
So
child
do
area.
you think she is in the past or in an alternate timeline?
I'm
Your thoughts, pure
Yeah,
speculation.
yeah. Pure speculation. We have no knowledge. I'm thinking it's an alternate timeline at this point.
Okay.
I could see an argument for the past based on things we've seen, but I'm thinking I'm I would be it would be interesting to me if one of the images we saw was just different versions of Zelda.
Oh, true. Because that's definitely buying into the theory I've seen thrown around that the darker skinned, longer eared elven figure in the trailers. This is fan theory, mine. is another, or not even another version of Zelda, but Zelda further along in her journey with the Zonai, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Hmm.
I tended to blah, 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 blah. Let's try this one more time. The emphasis was on the wrong syllable. I tend to subscribe to the idea that she is in the past with the events just before the Zonai vanished. I think that's where she is, and they are facing off against not necessarily a calamity, but
Hmm.
like some incarnation of Ganon at that point in time, and that there's going to be some kind of sacrifice play on their part, which will explain their disappearance. That's my call anyway.
Yeah, because the Zonai are relatively new to the
Hmm.
series, and so if they played with them a little more, that'd be cool.
Unless they're playing the long game
Okay.
and connecting them
Hmm.
back to the Twilight.
That could be too. Yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that is the art book making or creating a champion, building a champion, something like that, points out that the um, the key aesthetic that is repeated very often in Zonai architecture is a spiral, and that exact same spiral is all over the Twilight's palace in Twilight Princess.
Hmm.
It's all over the Fused Shadow Mask and all that stuff. I don't know. I know it's wishful thinking, and it's me trying to manifest wish fulfillment on the world, but I would love for that bridge to be connected, because the Twilight were such a cool concept, and the description for the Twilight matches almost beat for beat the description of what has been given for the Zonai. But again, we don't know. We
Yeah,
don't
we don't
know.
know.
We won't even know on May 12th, hopefully shortly after,
And
because I'm going to tear through this game.
yeah, even if we're wrong about any of this, I think I'm still going to be delighted by
Oh,
whatever is
yeah.
presented. It's not going to matter if my theory is right or wrong.
It's Zelda. It's Zelda.
It's not.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's going to be a great game because if there's one thing that Nintendo does fairly consistently with Zelda, Mario, Metroid, those titles is give us a great game. And, they just show that over and over again.
Once
And
they keep it in house.
yeah, and keep it in house. Yeah, there's caveats here and there because
Looking at you, other M. I'm sorry, was that out loud? The only caveat for that one would have to be, and we're going off topic again, but the Prime series. Retro Studios did an amazing job with that.
yeah, yeah, they did.
Ninja Theory, not so much.
Yep. So yeah, there's definitely some misses, but by and large, they do a good job. And I don't know why this is an argument anymore. When the Switch first came out,
Hmm.
there was the argument that, oh, it's an underpowered system, blah blah blah. I'm like, but have you looked at the past Nintendo consoles and seen how much fun and joy they've given people and how
Yeah.
much these games have been incredible on there? Why are you already discounting this system? And now the Switch is one of the best selling game consoles.
Hmm. But it's graphics that make a good game. Everyone knows it.
Yeah,
It has to have good graphics, or it's not a good game.
yeah.
Miss me with that nonsense. Miss
Hmm.
me entirely with that nonsense. But that was my biggest sort of gripe, I guess you could say, for the crowd that before that final trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, were saying, oh, this looks like DLC and blah 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 blah. It's like, yes, a lot of the ideas were from DLC, that they decided to go ahead and flesh out and turn into a new game. But when they're talking about the graphics, I'm looking at this stuff going, for all of you who are touting yourselves as diehard graphics fans, I don't know what you're looking at, but the first game was designed for the Wii U, and therefore the graphics on the Switch look like they're from the Wii U. This is a completely updated engine, particle systems, light effects, ray tracing, the works, for Tears of the Kingdom. From the earliest trailers, it looked completely different. I'm like, what are y'all on? But then again, it's the internet, console fanboys and etc. are
Right.
just going to go full blown tribalism. So
And as Zelda fans, we know that the Zelda timeline, it doesn't connect in clean ways because they weren't thinking about it when they first made these games, and it definitely an afterthought. So even if stuff doesn't line up with other games, that's
hmm
okay because it doesn't have to. It
nope.
really doesn't. It's fun. I'm glad there's these loose connections and we have these timelines so we can sort in order, and that's fun and that's great. Just don't look under the microscope too closely at them. But yeah, even if there's problems between this game and Breath of the Wild, I'm not going to care because I'm just going to have fun.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely. Also, at least the Zelda timeline still makes more sense than Kingdom Hearts. I said what I said. Yep. You can find me at artificer_ind. Bring it. Bring
yeah,
it.
yeah. Another thing I'm excited about in the game is the ability to just go through mountains. Like,
Right?
what? Sure, there's climbing, but we can just go through them.
Whoop. Which was fantastic because I remember after the first teaser trailer that showed off that particular ability dropped,
Mhm.
there was a leak from the patents office showing this mechanic in action. And all of us from the patents basically assumed, now incorrectly, that there was going to be caps on it, distance caps and things like that. And then Nomura walks into a cave, 2 to 3 stories above, and just, and we're like, you mean we can do this anywhere we want? Thank you. I don't
yeah,
care if the story is garbage at this point. I get to swim through mountains.
right.
I'm happy.
Like, how many games let you do that? You know?
Yeah. But we also know it's like the story's not going to be garbage.
yeah, yeah.
It's just the amount of love and attention and care that this particular team has taken, especially
Hmm.
since the new director had taken over, has just been fantastic because you can tell it's not just the cash in on an idea. It is literally a continuation of a story that means something to the people working on it. Which anytime I see that in a game, if I can see that there was love put into it, I'm going to show that love back in return. That's why, I can say things like, I love God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, even though I'm not a huge fan of the God of War series, because those two games were made with love, care, attention, and soul. And that's what I felt with Breath of the Wild, even though it was a very unusual way to tell the story.
Hmm.
A lot of it was narrative by discovery, which that's my bread and butter, so I'm okay with that. And there were a few people confused on it, but it's like when you get down to the core experience, even if you're not following meticulously over every narrative pathway or anything, when you're meeting these characters, when you're meeting the champions, learning what happened to them, things like that, you still give a shit. You still care when you go and meet Riju and is like, I have no real reason to do anything for this town, but you're awesome. I appreciate that you feel like you're not doing enough as a leader, and I want to help you. Or, Sidon, even though so fun fact about Sidon. Uh Catherine likes Sidon. She cannot stand when he does the whole smile pose. She, in her own estimation, has to refrain from punching out his teeth. Something about it just bothers her. But you still care, you still feel something,
yeah.
And you're right, insofar as Nintendo, especially after they got past Nintendo had missteps around the N64 days, particularly when they were like, we're too big to fail. Once they got back into the business of making fun, that's the biggest thing. It's the business of making fun. They're not always going to be spectacles. They're not always going to be, you know, blockbuster events, but they're always going to be fun. Like right now, I know if I wanted to, I can go buy the newest Mario game because I don't own it, unfortunately, and I know I'm going to have fun, and that's all it needs to be, you
Hmm.
know. And then you toss in the love and care for a narrative on top of that with a game like Tears of the Kingdom. It's like I am no console fanboy by any estimation. I can say 100% I'm a Nintendo fanboy because of that ethos.
Oh yeah, definitely. Same here. I mean, I'm always looking forward to the new Nintendo system, whatever it is. I mean, there's been I've skipped a few, but just because didn't really need it. You know, like the Wii U, I completely skipped.
No. We went it was like GameCube and then Switch. That was our big thing. It's like one of our friends had the Wii and we played a little bit on that, but no. It's like we owned a GameCube and then we didn't own another Nintendo console until the Switch. And I specifically picked up the Switch for Breath of the Wild, and that was in 2021. I've played that game to completion 8 times now.
Oh wow,
I like it. It's a fun game.
it is a very fun game. I just the design, the mazes. I love the puzzly bits because then you throw it, you know, not only do you have a puzzle, but you also have this cool power. Well, now you do things with this cool power to solve puzzle. I'm like, okay, I'm in.
I'm in. Let's go.
Let's go.
I mean, that is just bog standard lock and key game design, which I'm
Mm.
definitely all about. So, but now that we have gone far afield, was there anything you else you wanted to discuss? I didn't know how long you were planning on running for.
Yeah, we should wrap up soon. One thing I do want to touch on that we. By the way, go to my YouTube, watch our talk about the Legend of Zelda with Robo Goblin because it's brilliant. YouTube.com/at DC Lasair. Was that the actress who does Zelda's voice? Every
Mm-hmm.
line in that trailer, there was something there. There was some emotion there. That it was a brilliant piece of voice acting
Mm-hmm.
because every time she spoke, I felt something else going on.
There was something buried. Yeah. Also, I never thought I
Yeah.
would say that about any Zelda game. That wow, this is really fantastic voice acting. Because the first voices we ever really heard in Zelda, they weren't saying anything; they were just making sounds.
Yep.
Like go back to Twilight Princess, and it really sounds like Midna is swearing half the time.
Right. Like like I think one of the first examples of actual dialogue we have that you can hear is "Hey, listen"
Yeah,
from the fairy, right?
everything else sounds
So, yeah,
generic sounds.
just Link making his noises, breaking pots,
Hmm.
just brilliant. But yeah, I think we'll wrap up here. We got
Okay.
little time for a question to sneak in while we do outros. So if you have one, drop it in. We'll answer it. But let's say who we are, what we're doing, all the things. So Zero, plug all the things.
Okay. So, of course, you can find me over on YouTube at artificer underscore industries. That's where you're going to find my collection of videos where I show people how I put together fun, geeky builds for everything from TTRPG, terrain, and mini painting to full on props from video games. I recently did Majora's Mask since we are talking Zelda. Beyond that, you can find me on Fridays, mostly on Twitch, where I have the Artificer chat, where we just share our weekly wins, or me going pretty much full stream of consciousness. Thanks, Carl Young, on Twitter, where I post about things frequently. I talk about TTRPG stuff, the stuff I'm working on, sharing the wins and other cool stuff from other makers in my life. And basically, that's my orbit. Is I like to make stuff, I like to entertain, and I like to teach people how to make stuff. So check it out.
All right, excellent. And I've been your host today, DC. You can find me just about everywhere under DC Lasair. That's DC LASAIR. Go to dclasair.bio.link for all my links. My Ko-Fi is ko-fi.com/Hadomancer. So go there, check it out. I am a, well, I gotta make sure I got the terminology right. I am a affiliate or I'm a Notion affiliate, yeah, or I'm in the Notion affiliate program, something like
Oh,
that.
awesome.
So I signed up for that. If you go to the link I'm about to get into chat, again, !Notion in my chat. If you go to affiliate.notion.so/DC Lasair and you subscribe to Notion at either the Plus or Business plan, I get a portion of that subscription for the first year you're subscribed to Notion. So check that out. That helps me out. And on top of being an affiliate Notion, I have templates because this is why I signed up for the affiliate program. Is I've made templates for the TTRPG space. The first link in that, the TTRPG Notion templates, are things like a DM screen, a player's journal, quick things for if you have an episode and you just need some information down, you can copy that. I also recently made a template that's at the top of the list there. That is quick actions. So if you want to be efficient and you're on a stream or just playing at a table and you decide on 3 to 4 actions that you're almost always going to use and you need that information right in front of you, what page it's on, whatever, I have a template for that. Check it out. Put down your actions, and if those don't fit, look up whatever actions you have. But this designed to, when it's your turn in combat, you already know what you're doing. You have the dice in front of you, what you need to roll, and you can build it out from there. So that's what that's designed for. The second link, the actual play production templates, will take you through the process of pre-production to post-production, checklists, keeping track of your episodes, and making sure you do all the things. So check both those out. Those are at no cost, available to you. You just hit the, I think it's duplicate button, usually in the upper right-hand corner of your Notion, and it's yours to do with as you like. So that's what I'm working on. Also, more things to plug. Go to my YouTube. check out all the Tech Fridays that are up there. Last week we had Cipher of Tyr, and of course this week we have Zero. This particular episode will be up on my YouTube probably Monday or Tuesday. And yeah.
Once again, I would like to extend my sincere apologies that you had me. I've had an amazing time, and I fear I've tainted your good name and the legacy of your show. So thank you.
Glad to have you here for those things.
Appreciate it.
I needed a good taint. So
good night, everybody. And on that
note, thank you all for being here. Stay tuned. We will go rating someone. Wow. Please be kind to yourself. Be kind to others.
Clip that. Clip it. Clip it. Thank you.
It. And I will see you all back here Monday. I still have more Vampire Survivors to go through because I need to get my 100% back.
Same.
And noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. So be kind to others, be kind to yourself, and I will see you Monday. Bye.